Hola, welcome back to my channel. As promised, I wanted to share with you my personal experience and things I wish I would have known when choosing my saddle. As you can see, I had to try a lot of saddles until I found one that was truly comfortable for my bikepacking trips and long distance cycling. Saddle soreness, saddle discomfort is one of the biggest limitations when people start cycling for longer distances. And I wasn't any different. I thought saddle discomfort was just part of cycling. But I started to do a bit of research and I applied some things that I learned as physiotherapist. So I will walk you through the most important steps I took to choose a saddle and to improve comfort on the bike. There's no right or wrong. Saddle is a very personal thing. So I hope you just find helpful some of these steps. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button. It really helps to support the channel. So let's dive into the first step. First, consider the type of riding that you do. Do you use your MTB bike, gravel bike or road bike for your bikepacking trips or long distance cycling? The differences between saddles for different disciplines relate mostly to your riding position, which is influenced by the type of bike that you have and how you ride it. In my case, I use my road bike for bikepacking, but a lot of people use the road bike just for short, high-intensity rides. But the way we ride our bikes tend to be quite different. So I tend to ride it in a more upright position. But as you can see, I also have an aero bar, so I was looking for a saddle that will give me this support in this upright position, but will also allow me to open the hips to be able to go in the aero bars. So that's why I choose the Specialized Power Mimic, because it has a more curved profile at the back and it's also quite wide, so it gives me the support I need to go in a more upright position. But it has a short nose also, which allows me to go into the aero bars. So you can see, for example, this time trial saddle, they tend to be quite flat. They have a short nose, so it allows you to go into the aero bars and open up the hip, but it doesn't give you much support in an upright position. And when we compare it to a traditional saddle, it has a more curved profile and it gives you more support when being in the upright position. But when you try to go then into the aero bars, you have a nose here, so yeah, it will be a little bit uncomfortable and difficult to get into the right angle to use your aero bars. So that's why I choose the Specialized Power Mimic, because it has still this curved profile and is also quite wide, so it allows you and supports you when going in an upright position, but then it has a short nose that allows you to open the hips and go into the aero bars. Second will be to check the materials that you want for your saddle. Padding is really important. When I started cycling, I thought that more padding equals more comfort, but that's not really the case. When I started to increase my mileage and the time I spent on the saddle, I noticed that over the rides, the soft padding was deforming under the sitting bones and then squishing and putting pressure in areas where you don't want it to be. So you need to give your seat bones an area of support. So it would be good to consider a less padded saddle once you get used to riding for longer, to give more support to your seat bones and allow you to hold the position for a longer period of time. It might feel a little bit hard at the beginning, but as you get used to and ride more on the saddle, you still feel like riding on concrete floor. Maybe you can try some more padded bib shorts, but it's really important to give this stability and support to your seat bones to be able to ride for longer. Another thing to consider will be the materials of the shell. Sometimes, most of the times, it's made of carbon or other materials, and the rails. For example, this is my first saddle. It came with the bike. It has carbon rails, which are very delicate, and actually I damaged them by trying to set the fore and aft. They are really delicate. So If weight is not one of your biggest concern, I wouldn't go for carbon rails because they can get damaged very easily. Instead, for my saddle, I went for the Specialized Power Mimic Expert, which is the middle range one instead of the Pro. Also, the price difference is considerable, but this one is still lightweight, has titanium rails which also absorb some vibrations from the road, and is 2 times less the price than the Pro model with carbon rails, which is also quite good and saves some budget. Third would be to consider if you want relief channels or cutouts. For example, this study of 2009 found no significant difference between saddles with a channel or not. It was mostly related for both men and women to the workload, not actually if it had a hole or not in the saddle. So you have different options. My first one had a relief channel, but it was actually quite uncomfortable because it was not right for my anatomy. So it was actually the borders, the edges here was creating more pressure. Then I thought, okay, maybe if I get a big cutout, then I will be more likely to hit the sweet spot, but no. Actually, the edges put a lot of pressure in areas, again, that it shouldn't, so it was really uncomfortable. And also, with this big cutout, you get a lot of splashes from the road when it's raining, so not good to keep your chamois dry. So now I have the Specialized Power Mimic, which is like the traditional power saddle of a Specialized, but it's filled in with foams of different densities that actually gives you still this relief like a cutout, but it's filled with foam, so it's less likely to have sharp edges that will cause pressure. And it also, you don't get the splashes from the road anymore, which is quite nice. Fourth would be to find the right saddle size. As mentioned before, we are all different and saddles comes in many different sizes and shapes. So finding the right saddle size will be mostly related to the saddle width and how well it supports your seat bones. I tend to look for a saddle that is wide enough to support the seat bones, but is not so wide that it will cause rubbing and shafting on the sides. So what I did was to measure the distance between my seat bones using a piece of cardboard. So you can use a piece of cardboard or tin foil, put it on the edge of a table or a step, sit on it, then you will get the mark of the seat bones, and then you can measure the distance between the seat bones, and you can use this measurement to find the saddle size. Some bike shops also have some devices to measure it. It will be the same principle, using a gel or a foam to see the marks and measure the differences, the distance between the seat bones. So this is really useful. And there's also, so the saddle width is mostly the widest part of the saddle, but there's different widths throughout the shape of the saddle, so it varies. So you have the widest part, the middle, and here on the nose, so that's also something to consider. So for example, we have this one that is quite wide at the back and then thin here at the top, at the nose. And then we have, for example, this time trial saddle that is more narrow here in the widest part, but the nose is more wide. So that's something to consider also. Final and most important will be to check that your position is right on the bike and that the saddle is properly adjusted. Most of the saddle issues doesn't come from the saddle itself, but from your position on the bike. There's different factors that influence that, can be your flexibility, Q factor, reach, etc. So maybe it might be worth it to consider a bike fit. But some things I did for myself was to adjust the saddle height. I asked a friend to record me and check how I was riding. So then I look at the video and I saw that my hips were rocking from side to side. I also noticed that I tend to lean towards one side. and actually my saddle height was too high for me. So what I did is I reduced the saddle height by 30 millimeters. Then I started to increase it little by little until I didn't feel any pressure, pain, or discomfort in the front of my knee, which is actually most of the time a sign that your saddle height is too low. But I notice most people on the road that I tend to look at have the saddle too high. So yes, then I started to increase progressively the height and went for 15 minutes test ride around my house. Once I found a position that was comfortable, I tested again for a longer period of time, like 30 minutes, until I found a position that was comfortable and I felt that my hips were stable enough, and really improved my comfort, because you also avoid this friction between you and the saddle as you move less and your hips are not rocking. So that's something that you can experiment with. Also things, for example, like the fore and aft or the tilt of your saddle might be something to consider. So yes, it's a question of testing and experimenting. You can do this at home or ask friends to help you, or with a mirror, record yourself, measure and try. So that's it. Well, I hope you find this video useful. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. But there's something else that you try and help you to improve your comfort on the saddle for bike packing. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button. It really helps to support the channel. See you soon and ride the bus as usual.